And I want to welcome you today. The Teaching Excellence Committee and the Center for Teaching and Learning are hosting this event today, and we have three presenters who are going to talk with us about some of the technology tools, some of the things that they use to to engage with students, to have students interacting with each other. And I know some of these are new tools to some of us, and some of them may have been things that you've tried before, but I'm looking forward to hearing how our speakers use them. So I will just start with Allison Fowler, and Allison is going to talk with us. Allison's in the psychology. If you haven't had a chance to meet her before, she's somewhat new faculty member at Spalding, and she's going to talk with us about Perusall, which is available through Canvas. I'm going to turn it over to Allison.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. So am I able to share my screen? Do I have that liberty here?
Yes.
Okay.
There should be a green share at the bottom.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to do that right now, and hopefully that works. Can you all see my screen here on Canvas? Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to give a little bit of an overview and like a very brief tutorial for how I use Perusall, and then if you have further questions, of course. So Perusall is an app, a website that I use in place of discussion boards and in conjunction with the readings and any video lectures that I assign. And I'll show you how it works and everything, but essentially it allows for more conversation style discussion around class material that I think better mimics what in-person discussions would look like as compared to your typical discussion board where you're having students, like post things, because in my experience, those tend to stay a little bit more surface level than I'd like, and we're not able to have authentic discussion. And so I think Perusall allows for more of that authentic discussion. So I'll show you how I set it up, and then I'll show you what it looks like and the different things that you can do with it. But so if I am just in a Canvas shell here and I go to settings and to navigation, I've got all these options for different apps and links that you can include on the sidebar. And so before, Perusall was down here, and so all I did to bring it to my navigation options was just click and drag it up to here. And so then once I do that, it's available to me and to my students in this little sidebar. So when you are in Canvas and you'd like to add Perusall as a tool that you're using in the course, and you do that right there and you click this button, it's going to automatically create the Perusall course that is attached to your Canvas course. And that's one of the things that I really like about it, is the communication between Perusall and Canvas is very seamless. And so the same is true for your students. When your students click on that link as well, it automatically populates their information over into Perusall. So this is just a course that I created just for showing you this purposes. So I don't have any actual students, but if I did, if I clicked on that student link, all of their names and their photos and their student IDs and all of that stuff populates over. So when I grade assignments in Perusall, those grades transfer over to Canvas as well, which is super convenient and easy. So what I do whenever I am creating my Perusall is, of course, it asks you all kinds of questions, but I'm going to show you an example of what a reading could look like here. So if you go to the library tab, there's all sorts of different types of materials that you can add, podcasts, YouTube videos. You can add textbooks. So through the Perusall catalog, you can, if you have a textbook that you like to typically use and you want to continue to use that, you can use that. It'll give the students the textbook in the online form, and they can access their readings that way. I personally prefer to use articles most of the time. That's what I typically do. So I would just go to adding a document from my computer, and I'm just going to show you what that might look like. So I'm going to my lifespan class. I teach that quite a bit, and just adding in an article, and it uploads that for me. And then once it's uploaded, I can assign it to my students. I can assign a point value. I can select how many comments I want them to have to make. And once that loads, I'll kind of show you what that looks like. But one of my favorite things about Perusall that I think makes it better than typical discussion boards is that it doesn't let students sort of get away, if you will, with saying things that are really surface level or really brief, like interesting or I didn't know that, and now I know that, or, you know, the typical kind of comments that we get that are, you know, a lot of words that are saying nothing. So Perusall allows you to create these different settings that force students to have to make meaningful, longer comments that actually contribute. And Perusall will automatically assign a point value to the comments of the students. And then you can go in and take a look and you can alter that if you'd like, but it gives a really nice jumping off point that helps tremendously with grading. It goes ahead and says, you know, this comment was subpar, this comment was really high quality. And so I really, really like that. So if I were a student and I was going to be commenting on this reading, I open it up, and here in this little conversation tab, if I wanted to highlight something, then I could start a conversation over here as a student, and I can start writing my comments. And then it allows students to tag one another. They can also tag me. So they could say, you know, hey, Dr. Fowler, I found this interesting. Can we talk about this more? Or I have a question about this, or anything like that. They can tag me and you know, communicate with one another. So if this were a text that we were using, the students could go through and see, okay, what if other people commented on what other conversations are happening? I can respond to those people. They can like each other's comments as well. So it's kind of similar to that sort of social media feed that a lot of them are very, you know, used to, that a lot of us all are very used to. And so then what I'm able to do is go in and engage in the conversation with them and respond to everybody and say, you know, hey, I love what I'm seeing here. I like this point. This is the answer to this question. And then they can respond back to me. And it's, like I said, it's just more of that conversational style. And there's more of that necessary pressure for them to really be engaging with the text that I really like. And you can do this for videos as well. And I use it for videos as well. If I create a video lecture and I want to make sure they're viewing it, I can post it in here, ask for annotations or not. It can just give me information that they've viewed it, which is really helpful sometimes if you just want to know, are my students even looking at these documents? Are they even trying to access them? Perusall will tell you things like how long they spent on the document, how many pages of it that they read, all sorts of things like that. And so, yeah, I love it. I've been using it. I started it out when I was doing everything online back in more when we were deeper in the COVID times. But I use this even when I taught in-person classes because I think that it's just changed the way that I have students engage with readings.
When they make a comment on a video, is it time stamped or do they just or is it just like in a bulletin board?
It's time stamped, yeah. So they can click on the little bar at the bottom that goes along and say, okay, I want to comment here, and then they type in their comment, and then they can have the same sort of conversation style with each other. Any other questions about Perusall?
Do you find the grading pretty accurate, or what's your thinking on that?
So I think that will vary a lot from professor to professor, depending on the sort of things that you look for. I think Perusall is probably a little bit harsher than I am with the grading. So I tend to end up pushing things up a bit because it does require that their comments are substantial. But I think that if you want to be, harsh is probably not the right word, but if this is a high level class, maybe you're teaching a class to seniors or it's some sort of seminar class or something like that, then I think that it would be really accurate in terms of the expectations of the comments.
Do you feel like what is a maximum class size for all the students to make a comment? Is there a max number?
That's another point. So you can select the group sizes of the students. So I've had a class before that only has 8 people. So for that class, I didn't, further group them out, I just made it to where all 8 people could see all of the other people's comments. But in other classes where I have closer to 15 or 20 students, I'll group them out into groups of 5 or so that they're just seeing 5 other people's comments. So it makes it a little bit more digestible for them to be able to engage with each other.
Allison, there have been a couple of questions in the chat, so I'll go ahead and share those. One is asking again about how you upload that program into Canvas, making that connection.
Sure. So again, what I do is in Canvas, in the course, I go down to settings, and then there's a navigation tab. And I have just scrolled down to these down here that were previously hidden. And I just click and drag it up to the navigation that the students can see as well. And so then it adds it over to this tab and makes it so that when you click on that link, it'll automatically create the Perusall shell that aligns with the Canvas shell.
And another question was about what sort of criteria Perusall has for substantial, if you can say anything more about that.
Yes, so let me go to my settings over here. And so this is where you can create the particular, settings and requirements that you want to have for your readings. So if I go over to scoring, there are different targets that you can select and decide what percentage of the credit that you want to go to the different, things for their comments. So you can select how many annotations that you want them to make. And so for me, if I've got a more brief video lecture that's maybe just 10 minutes, then I might just require 2 or 3 comments versus a larger article or a chapter. I might say, I want you to be making somewhere more along 10 comments. So, it can vary, but you can personalize that here. And then you can also select how many points you want to be awarded for each comment. You can, select things about credit, how far past the deadline they're allowed to submit. And so then here is where you can really sort of personalize the way that you want the scoring to go. So what percentage of their overall grade is going to be awarded to them just for, opening up the assignment? How many additional points could they get for opening up the assignment multiple times, to engage with it over a period of time? This pertains to how much of it they're reading, how actively they're reading it. So there's all sorts of different pieces of the puzzle for their contribution to the assignment that you can play around with according to your liking and your requirements as a professor. Getting responses, for example, so you can require them to make the types of comments that really incite conversation. So if they get more responses, that gets them additional points, things like that. So yeah, there's all sorts of those options here. But then if you wanted to decide, I just want it to be about how many comments they're making and focus less on those other little things, you can select annotation content only instead, and it'll just focus on the comments and the quality of the comments versus, the other pieces.
That is really interesting. And so it automatically adds the score to the gradebook?
Yes, it does. So I'll show you what that looks like here. So I create links in Canvas that align with the assignments that are in Perusall. So when students click on those links and they go to Perusall to complete the assignment, then I grade it, and sorry, it's still loading the gradebook. And that actually might be because there's no students in this course. But when I grade in Canvas, it'll give me a little button at the bottom that says, I think, share with students or something like that. And so then when I click that, it populates the grades over into Canvas. It might take a little bit of time, like a few hours for the grades to transfer over, but they will transfer over.
Thank you so much. And I know that there probably are some other questions hanging out there. And so hopefully we'll have a little bit of time at the end to come back around and talk a little bit more about this. Thank you, Allison. That's really interesting. Something new that I'm learning myself. So I think we'll move forward to Lisa is going to tell us a little bit about Kahoot and how she uses Kahoot.
Yeah, I think actually, if you don't mind, maybe Stacy can go next because hers is also kind of related to discussion. If that
sure.
works. You're muted, Stacy. Sorry.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Yeah, I asked to go next because this really follows nicely with what Allison just did, and thank you so much for sharing that. I'd never seen how that worked, and I can think of places. I have a practice class where I had students watch videos, and I would love that ability to just annotate in real time. So I'm going to show you another option for discussions, and in the interest of getting everybody active, I just go through some things in the chat board. What do you like about online, and what do you hate about online discussions? And for whatever reason, I can't see them, so I may have to have your help, Donna, with sharing those. Oh wait, I can see them. Okay, it takes a long time to grade. Awesome. I assume that's what you don't like about it. Allison, love talking with students, dislike the low-level engagement. Donna, hate asynchronous comments because it's not a real conversation. Two more. Tammy, thank you. Students and professors can post at a time that's convenient for them. Jeff, too long, not enough exchanges for real discussion. Like the way everybody can engage. Time to reflect before you contribute. Also, I'll add, you can go back and edit if you decide later you shouldn't have said something. 24-hour access, yeah, great. So you guys are actually pointing to a lot of things that I have hated about discussion boards. And I spent a sabbatical looking at best practices in online and started with reading Michelle's book, Minds Online, Michelle Miller. And these are some of the things that she said that actually really challenged my notion of moving away from discussion boards because they're busy work. And I'll just highlight some words. If they're done right, they can be powerful learning experiences. They mediate the relationship between procrastination and success. The idea that they improve over time, and that they are a way of creating community and fun. So she says it's really actually essential in an online class to include discussion, or else you don't have that level of engagement that you're seeking in the learning process. So here's my spoiler alert. This is the kind of discussion I'm getting in real life, in real classes. These are 3-week modules, and look at the amount of engagement and how that increases over time. So I'm about to show you how that happens. This is, if this were a drug commercial, this would be the fine point that we read really fast. I am really using it. I did not give you a lot of screenshots because I know it's being videotaped, and that would have been a problem with confidentiality for students. But I'm happy to jump on with anybody who would like to do that. I'm a pilot user for my department. We did pay for an individual license, and I would be really motivated if other people decide they'd like to try this. I think it would reduce our per user cost. So what is Menti.io? It's using an artificial intelligence-based platform that really moves students toward engagement and helps me to help them be actively engaged in the I'm sorry, I keep having multiple calls from my family. I'm going to ignore them for 15 minutes. Empowers students and faculty to have deeper conversations. This is coming from Menti.io's website, the key things that they want to point out, and I will endorse it and say I have seen student engagement increase. I have seen them pay more attention to their courses, which can be a real problem in fully asynchronous courses. And it has really helped me with the assessment process and made the assessment transparent. So they know what I'm looking at in terms of quality of a conversation. For them, activity, an opportunity to get feedback that helps them to improve, and a way of retaining their interest in the course and retaining them over time. Okay, so here's what it looks like. First of all, I really love these instructions. for a discussion, and I use them verbatim. These are suggested by Menti-O. I will tell you, I never anymore tell students how many words the post needs to be. I never tell them that they must make an initial post. I never tell them how many times they must post, because those are the kinds of things that we would not do in a live classroom with human beings that are there in person. We wouldn't do those things. And so it creates this artificial attention to counting things in a discussion when we do that. This platform focuses them on the meaning of their conversations. And so they're encouraged, number one, not to say those things like Allison just said, great, I agree, thanks for saying that, I love this, you go. It actually drives them toward a response that adds meaning to the conversation, adds something. So it's as simple as, and I should have screenshotted this, I didn't. You can also integrate Menti-O into the Canvas course, just like Allison just showed us. And they have on their left-hand navigation bar a button that says Menti-O. If they're in more than one course that has Menti-O, clicking on it from within the course will take them to the right discussion, which is also a really sweet feature. And it looks more like a social media platform where here's the question that I've posted, and to answer, they simply click on answer. Once they are there are lots of things they can do. So here again is the question. They have a place here that they can post an original response. They can reply to someone else. They can, and I use this button quite a bit, ask for clarification. What did you mean when you said, or I think that this little bit is not exactly what the author was talking about. Talk to me more about whatever. They can agree or challenge. By the way, this is an old screenshot. They have changed this from disagree to challenge. And I will tell you, the moment that I see them, because they have to, when they reply, they have to choose one of those options. The moment that I see them using the challenge option is the moment that the conversation goes to a different place. Because now they are really adding something different. And I'll give you an example. I have a practicum seminar where I had a student early on in practicum really kvetching about how she wasn't doing anything in her practicum. She wasn't getting the kind of supervision that she wanted. She didn't feel like she was learning anything. And one of my students went in, clicked the challenge button and said, here's a different way to think about it. And then proceeded to give her some different ways. The class piled on that thread because they really were engaging in both sides of that conversation in a really interesting way. By the way, you can highlight a post. Early on in a class, I will sometimes do that to draw their attention to a place that might generate some conversation. The other option that they have, they can look at who's replied to their post and see that comment, string of comments, but they also have a chance to click on analytics for their particular contribution. This is actually from my class, which is why this bit is grayed out. But they have a number of ways to get some feedback. They love getting this little ribbon that tells them they're doing well in this conversation. They also get stars next to their name for being active participants. They can tell how many people have seen and read their comment. They can look at how people are agreeing versus challenging what they've said, and they can, over time, see how their score is improving over the course. This right here also tells them who and how many people have responded. All right, so here's something different that I love about Menti-O. Not only is it using artificial intelligence to evaluate the quality of what they're doing in the discussion, but it also makes it transparent and lets them see so that they can go to their analytics dashboard, which is right up at the top of their screen, click on My Analytics. This piece right here directly relates to some of the categories that are used in grading their participation, so they can see against the average for their own course in this discussion. On average, people are making 12 comments or questions. You've only done 3. You're participating in 90% of the decisions that are being made against 20% for the class, and so on. They can also take a look at, in terms of the quality of their participation, where do they need to improve? Well, in this case, they could just be more active, and that would definitely improve their participation. They also could stand to be a little more clear and what they say. And here's a nice one. I love this. It maps who's talking to whom in the course. So you know how both in the classroom and online you tend to pick your person, and maybe you even make an explicit agreement, I'll reply to you if you reply to me. This encourages you to talk to everyone and not just one or two people. Okay, so here are the assessment components that Menti.io is going to use to give me feedback on how my students are doing and transparently also share that information with them. This one is real straight up, and if I only have one discussion going on at a time, this piece will always be 100 as long as they do something. This one is really sweet because Menti.io tells them you can do well in a discussion even if you don't ever make an original post, an answer to the question. If you engage with others, you're contributing something and you'll be rewarded for that. This one is pretty simple. It's, are you actually reading what other people are posting and how much of it? This one is looking at the interaction that you have with others, both using those features that I showed you about ways that you can respond, but also how deeply you're engaging in conversation with one another. So if somebody asks you a question, do you go back and answer them? Don't you love that in an online discussion? Somebody says, so-and-so, tell me about blah, blah, blah. And then that question just dies. It's lost. Nobody ever responded to it. And finally, this is where they're using the artificial intelligence to actually look inside the comments and put some value on how much that's adding to the conversation. So this is the dashboard that I get when I click on my analytics. I can see the individual and the class bits that I showed you right here. But I also have one extra screen. And this is where it takes those 5 components of evaluating the discussion, and it actually rates each student and then gives them an overall score, which is, depending on how you set it up, usually the average of these 5 items. I directly give this feedback to the students when I go in and I put their grade in. I actually tell them, just in case they missed it, here's what your score was in each of these areas. Early on in a class, I will pick one of these where their score is the lowest. So like right here, this person's Shannon. She's not reading everybody's work. So I'll say to her in the next conversation, one way that you can really improve your score is to make sure that you're looking at what others have to say. Or I can pick, here's where you're doing a really good job. You're in the discussion, you're looking at everybody's work, but you're really not interacting with them. See if you can participate more in that way. There are some ways that I can use my settings to kind of control the scoring. So for example, I can filter by time. If this is the day that the discussion closes, I put it here so that they only get credit for doing things on time. But it does not keep them from adding to the conversation after the discussion closes so that somebody can still participate. It just doesn't give them credit for it in the grading. I can also limit it to, I've got a bunch of discussions going on and I want to only look at how things are going for one particular discussion. And then I can also go up here on grade distribution and say that on average, I want to see those ratings, you know, kind of go between 70 and 100 with the midpoint being 85. This keeps it, you know, if I put it down here at 60, some people are going to fail this discussion, right? So this allows me to control it so that then when I'm looking at their scores, I can literally say, okay, these are A's and this is a B and this is a C, and depending on how many points I have assigned to it, I can calculate it that way. Or I can say this is a 5-point discussion. So everybody who's in the 90s is going to get a 4.75. And then this is probably going to be a 4.5. So, you know, I'm not using it directly as a, you know, an 80% grade, but I'm using it to inform the decisions that I'm making. I can also go up here on absolute values so that it's not standardized against the class. And I can actually get some feedback, which I can download to a spreadsheet if I want to, about exactly how many posts they made, how many replies, how many, you know, and it actually quantifies the activity for each student. All right, so back to my spoiler. Used it in 3 classes. This one is an initial class that we use as our entry point for the BSSW program. There were only 2 discussions, and look at what's happening. during this class. I mean, this amount of interaction with one another, especially when they posted their initial mission statements, everybody posted one with tons of discussion. Here's another one. This is a 100% online asynchronous course. It has 6 modules for 6 weeks. Each week they have, until Wednesday to look at what's in the module and to make their initial contribution to the discussion. By Friday, they finish the discussion, take the quiz, and by Sunday, they have an assignment to submit each week. So this is a 3-day discussion. And look at how much activity, especially toward the end of the course. Now, interestingly here, this one dropped off a little bit, but this was the week that they were videotaping their presentation for the last week of class. So that's kind of expected. Here's where they made their commitment for how they're going to continue the work they started in this class. Lots of engagement. And this is the one that I love. This is my seniors that are in their practicum. It just blows my mind. I have never seen this much engagement in a course. And again, I didn't tell them how many words. I didn't tell them how many posts. I didn't tell them how many replies. I just said, you got 3 weeks, discuss. And this is what they did. So if anybody wants to see inside a real live course, let's take it off of video. I'd be happy to sit down with you and show it to you. And I know that I was talking really fast and probably a little over my time. So, bunches of questions. How do you guys want to do this? Do you want to go look at what Lisa has to share and then come back to these just so that we give her enough time?
Yeah, I think that would probably be best. We can hear from Lisa, and then we'll come back and circle around and spend some time with questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Stacy. That was, it's more than I can take in. So I'm going to be thinking.
Last thing I'll say, and I'm noticing this, long time to grade, boy, oh boy, does it make grading easier and more objective. And I feel more confident in grading a discussion. I'm definitely not counting words and I'm not counting posts.
Thank you. We'll turn it over to you, Lisa.
Okay. All right, can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so rather than go through PowerPoint slides, what I thought we would do is just play the Kahoot together, and I'll kind of pause along the way and then show you how to actually use Kahoot and create one, but it's pretty simple. So I thought we could kind of play and I could show you some of the features that way as well. All right, so what you need to do is go to kahoot.it and then enter this game pin, and that will get you into the Kahoot. And I don't know, Donna, do you know how many people are on here that I should kind of be looking for a number to get to? I mean, if everyone can't join, that's okay, but.
There are 17, but I know for myself, I don't think I will join just because I'm recording and I don't want to mess anything up. But
okay.
So about 7.
Okay. Oh yeah, I see it now.
Hey, Jeff, on your phone, go to kahoot.it and it will give you a place to enter the number.
All right. Give it another second here. Okay. All right. Is there anybody else that we need to wait on to join in? Okay. I think I'm going to go ahead and hit start just for the sake of time so we can get going. So it'll just pop up the question and then you select the option on your phone. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, so pretty even spread actually. So I'm hoping what I will go through today should have like something kind of for each person to take from it. I want to look at quickly showing you how you can access like Kahoots that are already there in the Kahoot library, how you can create your own Kahoot. And I'll go through some highlights. And like I said, just kind of in playing the game, you'll see some of those and then talk about some ways to play and how I've used it. So that's kind of what I want to go through with you all. So let's do one more question. All right, good. You can not only use it in a live setting, so you can use it in person, in your live in-person classroom, like we're doing virtually, but you can also actually assign the Kahoot. You can assign it as a challenge, or a lot of times I'll just paste the link directly into Canvas for my students to access. But you can actually assign it and give it a due date. And I'll show you how to do that here in just a second. So that's basically what this is looking at. So a lot of times, like I'll use this as a review day. So like tomorrow in one of my classes, we'll be doing review. And one of the things we'll do is do Kahoot together in class, and I have them team up. And I give them a little carrot of the top performing teams can earn some extra credit on the upcoming exam. So I tell them this in advance, and it really motivates them to come to the review prepared. So even if they're still cramming, at least they're cramming like 2 or 3 nights before the exam instead of the night right before the exam. So they're just a little bit more prepared that way. So that's the way that I use it probably most often. So what I wanted to do is just back out of this really briefly, and if it's going to let me show you, let me go to the right tab here. Show you like how to actually do this yourselves. Once you're create an account and logged in, and you can create an account for free, there's different levels, and I'll show you this at the end. You can go to Discover here, and then you can just type in, my computer's being a little slow today, sorry. You could type in, like whatever topic you're looking for, and there's a huge library of pre-made Kahoots that you could use. And I mean, you can literally just click on one of these and then hit play and play it right then, and you're good to go. You can also click on these, and if you want to edit it, you can. It'll prompt you to duplicate it and then edit it from there. If you want to make your own, you can click this create button here, and then click create, And then again, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, you really can't mess it up. So add question, you know, when you click to add a question, it'll ask you what type. Again, you can get different question types kind of depending on, I paid myself for a premium one because I wanted to be able to do this like ordering and some other features like the polling, but it's really not that expensive. You can also add slides. You can adjust the settings over here. If you want to add videos or images, you can do that. So there's, you know, a few different options you can do, and it's all pretty easy and pretty straightforward to find out, or to figure out how to do it actually. So then let me exit out of this. I wanted to show you the actual assigning part. So I've got my duplicate here. When you go to play, this is where you can choose the teach or assign. And I guess it's going to be a little slow. So here you go is how you can like set the due date. Some of these features, so if you want to assign this as a challenge, what these options basically will allow you to do is, say you've already played this in class and there were a handful of questions that the class did not do well on. You can go back and click this personalized learning on, and then what it will do is it will give them the challenge of only the questions people did not do well on. So it'll force them to go back specifically to those questions, which could be helpful if you have a long one. You can keep the timer on or off, like if you want them to go for getting it correct and not just doing it quickly, you can turn the timer off. So when you play it live, it does take into consideration both like how quickly they're going through and answering the questions, and then also, you know, if it's correct or not. So you can adjust that feature there. So I just wanted to show that quickly before we kept going. All right. Yep. So I don't know if I think I mentioned all these. Yeah. So you can not only ask questions, but also add content slides for them to review. This one is just an example of a video, which I put in here. Maybe it's an example of a video. There we go. It's just slow again. This is actually a feature that I just recently discovered. It's a new feature, but they have this Kahoot Academy. So that's what this little video is, just how you can like create your own profile and access this whole academy and connect with other educators. All right, so did pretty good. So again, this is just an example of one of those ordering ones. You know, so I like this. Oh, sorry, something fell in my office. This is a feature that I really like because like with the neuroscience class that I teach, especially, there's a lot of processes that we look at. And so I really like this feature a lot, having the ordering. All right, so just a reminder slide, you know, some screenshots of the process. And actually what I did, I don't know if, Donna, you plan on, if we all want to share like PDFs of what we've done, but I do have these actually in slide version to share, so that you don't have to necessarily watch this live. Just some tips. This is directly from Kahoot. Again, I think it's probably pretty obvious, but you know, when I'm doing this in class, especially if I'm using it as a review, I will like kind of pause between the questions, go back and explain something if everyone didn't get the right answer, or if there was, you know, a disproportionate number of incorrect answers, showing the images, and then stopping at the podium each time and kind of mentioning like if someone's on a hot streak and stuff like that. It just helps to keep everyone engaged. All right, so this is another feature that is a newer feature that's reading the slide. So I thought this was kind of a neat feature that they've added. So then, you know, the other thing, I also put this here just to help remind me of some other things to mention to you. So they don't, there's not an integration with Canvas like the other things have, but again, the way I usually do this is just copy the link and put it right there in Canvas. But it is, you do have access to look at the reports of a Kahoot that's been played, and you can download like a .csv file for that as well. I can go back and show you all that later, actually, just for the sake of time. I'll keep going. So just kind of showing another feature here. You can choose it to slowly reveal an image if you want to, which is again in those options when you're adding in a question, and have people type in an answer.
Lisa, there was a question about whether students have to create an account.
No, they don't. Students do not have to create an account. So each time you do it, you can they just go to that kahoot.it to play the game. All right, so and again, I am not like a salesperson trying to sell you on this, but I did want to show everyone what the different options were. And you know, I know this is hard to see, but there's some different features. I've got this Kahoot premium plan. And so this is kind of one thing where, you know, again, there's like site license options. So I was curious to know what if, you know, people are interested in using this, kind of like Stacy mentioned, you know, if more people were interested in the other, how that could help with the cost.
If we had a license, do you know how many classes or how many people would be able to participate in that, or is it just an overall license?
So I think, so that's what it is showing down at these bottom two. And as far as I could tell when I was looking at it yesterday, or I guess we would be this one here, it doesn't look like it has a number on like the limit of people. And so that's because it was like that 18 whatever per educator. But again, you know, you go to look into it more, it's just like fill out this contact your sales rep form. So I know a lot of times places will have a number and then negotiate, like depending on how many educators you have. Okay, so lastly, and again, like I said, I can share my slides with these links in here, but actually when you are on your Kahoot homepage, there's different resources they have there. Like there's a library of like things that tells you how to do things. I also had added another one in here that just is like getting started. So I can share those with you also if you are interested and you're not sure, you know, you can go back and access these just right by clicking these links, and it gives you some tips on how to do that. So yeah, that was my last one. So I can just skip out of this one, and then that way we can get back to the chat. And then it'll show you the podium at the end. And again, this is what I use, like when we're at the end. Okay, you see here's who earned the extra credit for the review day.
Yeah, thank you. So I know we are bumping up against the bottom of the of 12:30, and we recognize that some people may have to leave, but I also just want to give a couple minutes in case there are any final questions. And then I know each of our presenters, like they have said, are more than willing to talk with you offline and one-on-one to share more details, because this was a very quick overview. Very quick, just to introduce you to the ideas. Does anybody have a burning question they just really need to get in before we?
I'll just jump in with an endorsement for that Kahoot. I saw Lisa demo it and tried it in my class, and I forgot to do the podium at the end, and the students were actually, no, we want to see who won. So it really does generate engagement and fun in class, and I've used it online as well as in the classroom.
Yeah, they get really competitive about it and really into it. I mean, and sometimes it's not always extra credit. Sometimes it's just they're just competitive to see who wins. Sometimes I take candy, like now that I have a bunch of extra Halloween candy.
I also had a student ask me, could I share the link, because she wanted to use it for studying. I mean, that was her idea. I want to do this again.
Yes, and I always, if it's an exam review, I do not share the link until we do it together in class. And then they always want to have access to it. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of thanks in the in the chat for the presentations today, and so yeah, I want to add my thank you to that, to Allison and Stacy and Lisa.
And I'll just say, like Lisa, I'm not trying to sell anything, but if you are interested in Menti-O and might consider a license, let me know. Because when we go to re-up ours, it will change the per user rate if we have more people that package it.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you guys. Thank you for coming today. And we'll be posting the video soon.